Hi there. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was actually struggling with figuring this out and trying to get you on. I'm really sorry for the delay.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so thank you guys for everyone else who have joined us right now. Um, so we'll just start right away. If anyone has any questions throughout the talk show, feel free to put in the comments below. That would be great. And we'll start
Okay,
right away.
wait, I guess I'll give some preface. I think some of my followers have also joined. This is just a talk show host about PMYC stuff, so I'll just be introducing like PMYC, what we do. So just in case anyone else, because I see some of my friends have joined as well, so just interesting.
Yeah, this is gonna be really great. There's a lot of people joining us today. Um, Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we'll just start right away. We're also recording this on our end so we can post it on our YouTube just to let everyone know. So before we start, why don't you go ahead and for our followers introduce yourself and about yourself. Like why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a member of the Prime Minister's Youth Council, Cohort 5. So I was recently appointed, and right now I'm in my second year at U of A in sciences. So just this past 2 years, I guess there's just been a lot of online involvement, and it would be like city council or Team Up Science, but most recently was just Prime Minister's Youth Council itself.
That's actually really good to hear. It's like there's a lot of good news. Sorry for that. Okay, that is great. So let's begin with what is the Prime Minister Youth Council for people who don't know what this is?
Sure, and I've just taken a few bullet points. If you see me looking to the side, I'm just kind of looking over the bullet points itself. So pretty much what we do is provide nonpartisan advice to the Prime Minister and the Government of Canada. We don't really represent any specific party. There's no ties to the Liberal Party, although that's what a lot of people believe. It's because the Youth Council itself was started by the Liberal Party, but it's just nonpartisan advice on any federal issues. So there's some issues that the government approaches us with, such as the Canada Youth Service Grant or employment opportunities for youth. And then there's issues that we also approach the government with, and that would be like accessibility needs or the opioid crisis or things that we've identified in our community that need addressing. And it's just a platform to kind of provide a youth perspective and kind of voice our concerns and actually have them heard at the highest stage in Parliament.
That's actually good to hear that there's a place for youth to step up and place their voices. That's actually
Yeah,
great to
big,
hear.
exactly. And we meet with the Prime Minister 3 times a year, and usually it's in person with other cabinet involved and senior government officials. But due to COVID, that hasn't been able to happen. So we've met with the Prime Minister once in the start of the summer, and we will be meeting with him again in February 11th to discuss the budget before it's announced. So not a lot of people get to see the budget. So like youth being able to see the budget and actually being able to advise on it is something that's just incredible. I mean, like which other leading country really has that sort of platform, right? So that's why I encourage everyone to get involved, everyone to apply for it as well.
Yeah, that's actually really cool to hear that you guys engage with the Prime Minister himself and other leaders. That's really cool actually for me. If you don't mind us asking, why did you want to join the Prime Minister Youth Council?
So I've always been interested in advocacy and I've served on many youth councils throughout high school. So one of them would be my school student union itself and the City of Edmonton Youth Council. And it's a lot easier to have an impact once you're part of an already established organization with like many like-minded individuals leading it. Because in the past, I've tried to do things on my own, and without the accountability and support systems in place, it's really difficult to kind of get things moving, where like the rubber meets the road kind of stuff, where to really get things moving along, you really have to be part of like a whole organization itself. And I think the youth councils provide a really good platform where you have all these like-minded individuals, all of them being youth themselves. You guys all have like interests that overlap with one another. So it's really easy to kind of get things done. And I think with the Prime Minister's Youth Council, it's at the federal stage. We have the Youth Secretariat, which is pretty much just a whole organization, a team of senior government officials just dedicated for youth. So they're able to put you in touch with federal like leaders,
Mhm.
um, director generals, which are the people that set the agendas for government meetings, and also kind of get whatever you want to the Prime Minister's office itself. So you're really able to like if I want to say something to Justin Trudeau or or maybe the Deputy Prime Minister, I won't be able to just reach out myself, of course, because there's a Prime Minister after all. But I say something to the Youth Secretariat, and they move it along to his office, and it gets there.
That's really cool actually. Um, I think you may have touched on this topic, but like going more in depth, how has or will this Prime Minister Youth Council benefited Canadian citizens, but especially youths of today, like in future or like currently, like for example, for us as youths, how has this like benefited us in your point of view?
So we advocate for issues that affect youth, and we serve as a voice for youth at like the highest level of government. So any issues that we see in our own communities, like let's say the opioid crisis, I'm not going to obviously take credit for this because it was prior council members that really raised those points. So they were able to really bring it up with Canadian government officials and get it moved from a subject 2 classification to subject 1 as well, along with other Health Canada officials. So real right now you can't even buy opiates like over the counter. Even like for Advil extra strength, you need to have a speak to the pharmacist themselves. And another thing is for really grassroots organizations, a lot of youth especially are the ones that have the time and the energy to kind of be involved in grassroots organizations for nonprofits. Because a lot of, like once you're an adult, like even once you're in uni, to be honest, you have a lot of competing responsibilities. So it's youth, it's high school youth that are really at the grassroots or doing all of this community work. And we get to see all of that and we get to bring it up with government officials and really put a plan in action. So with the opioid crisis, it's funding for grassroots initiatives. And then for the MSM blood ban, so that's just essentially Canada Blood Services had a ban that men who have sex with men are not able to donate their blood, and that is actually discriminatory in many ways because there isn't much science that supports that. So the Youth Council saw issue with that, and they were able to get that removed. And then ban on conversion therapy recently as well. And then what else? Let's see. Just accessibility, disability tax credit, affordable housing. There's like a lot of competing issues and so many issues in all of our communities, right? So like, and there's 10 members and then each have their own interests, but they're all bringing forward things that they see in their own community at the highest level. So it's definitely beneficial for not only youth, but Canadians as a whole, because these issues affect everyone. Affordable housing, opioid crisis, you name it.
Yeah, they do actually affect everyone. And currently, right now, because of the pandemic, there are many other issues arising. So that's good to know. Is there any specific upcoming events or goals that you can tell us, even though the pandemic is out there and it's kind of hard to like, you know, do an event or like do something that's permanent, but is it possible you can tell the viewers, is there anything coming up, event or goals that the Prime Minister Youth Council and the whole team coming up with?
Sure. So specific events is just on February 11th, we'll be meeting with the Prime Minister to discuss the budget before it is announced. So that would, if we see any, like, if we see areas where there should be more funding allocated, such as Canada Summer Jobs Program or the the Canada Services Grant Program, we can kind of bring it up there, and just any other issues as well. So I know one of my colleagues is really supportive of the Black Endowment Fund, which is just funding for Black-led initiatives, and that's kind of where everything gets done. So if the Prime Minister has allocated a certain amount of funding for entrepreneurial events or innovations, we bring up the point that, oh, there should be a certain amount of funding dedicated to only this cultural group, or there should be a certain amount of funding dedicated to this age group for youth, etc. So that's really one place where we can really get a lot done, because it's 2 hours with the Prime Minister himself, and then that's not a lot of people get to kind of advise at that early stage. So just being a youth council and being given that opportunity is really incredible. And then other things would be Bill 21, which is in Quebec. A lot of people have found it to be quite discriminatory. So recently we've written a letter to the Prime Minister and also to other government officials, and are hoping for some correspondence there. Well, it is a provincial issue and not a federal issue, so we don't really know what the Prime Minister himself can really do much about it, but still trying to get some media attention for it and trying to kind of not pressure, but kind of raise awareness about how discriminatory many youth find it. And then another one is substance use and abuse. So myself personally, I found that like with easy access and to recreational drugs such as alcohol, cannabis, psychedelics, it's a lot easier to kind of get your hands on those things and try them out. And then I'm not saying it's a bad idea to try them out or anything. I'm not trying to judge anyone if they do that too, because there's nothing wrong with that. That's your life choice. But the thing is, not many people really understand like the detrimental consequences of just even single use of drugs, right? So even having it once or twice or 3 times, like the research there doesn't really say much as if it's negative or if it's beneficial. There's a lot of risk that's involved. So I think it's better to kind of just raise more awareness about the risk that's involved, especially before the age of 25, taking substances. So I think it's better to just raise that awareness, tell people about exactly what they're getting themselves into, and then if they decide to make that choice, so be it. But just kind of raising more awareness about itself.
That's good to know that there's a lot of stuff coming up for the like that you guys are doing, the Prime Minister Youth Council is coming up with. That's great to hear. Let's say a youth, like for example, an individual youth want to give their opinion, want to like tell them that there's this issue and that they want you guys to look into it. What way or what is there like a process that they guys can talk with you? Like, what would you tell a youth, for example, if they have currently right now there's many issues and someone wants to come up and approach you? Is that possible, or do you have to go through a certain requirement to meet you guys?
No, of course, you can always approach us. So our email is actually on the website itself. If you search up Prime Minister's Youth Council, you'll find the federal email, and it's an email that all council members receive. And it's like not even email actually. You can just approach me in person, approach me over online. If there's anything, my DMs are open as well. So like anything that if there's an issue that you want to be brought up with at the federal stage or that you think it's important to have a discussion about, you just have to approach me honestly, and then myself or my colleagues will bring it up at our next meeting. And our meetings are monthly as well. We have meetings once a month, working sessions throughout the month to kind of get things moving. So that's really where we're focusing on our projects as well. And we're always changing our projects too, because like individual interests change over time and what's important changes over time. So as a council right now, we've set our priority as national farmer care. Well, I can't really say that. That's one of our priorities as national farmer care. And then what we're trying to do is really kind of move it in the direction of where, like, if you have a chronic disease, that you can actually afford treatment for it. So if you have like diabetes, eczema, or especially diabetes for populations that are more like, let's say, misfortunate, like I know indigenous populations especially where diabetes is more prevalent and they don't really have access to such resources and funding, it's really important that we're able to get them on a national farmer care plan. And that's one of our priorities. And then also dealing with the inequalities that the pandemic has kind of shown, addressing those as well.
That's good to hear that you guys are open for the youths to hear. That's good. I also got a lot of questions from my teammates as well to ask you guys. Because of this whole pandemic, this whole virus going around, what has the government or you guys done? Like, what are like the upcoming goals for this? That you know how for youth, schools and universities and colleges are closed. Is there anything like the government or you guys have discussed about this, or is it just on and off right now?
Honestly, just because the situation is changing so rapidly, it's been a lot of on and off, and I would like to say that we've been able to do more, but just because it's kind of out of our hands, and this is something that's only actually up to cabinet itself, we haven't really been able to do much except just advice. And our advice has always been like the pandemic has shown a lot of inequalities. There's just a lot of resentment as well amongst like minority groups against the healthcare industry, because I know in Quebec, my colleague was mentioning that not a lot of people really trust healthcare professionals there just because of how they've been treated in the past. Like it's just a matter of like distrust against the government. It's not really so like, oh, we're anti-vaccine or we're anti-science or per se, which a lot of people get kind of like roped into all of that, right? Like if you're against the vaccine mandate, you must be like a conspiracy theorist or against freedoms and all that. But there's a lot of nuance to all of this. Like it's easy to kind of say everything's black and white, but there's a lot of nuance. So what we've noticed as a council is our advice has just been kind of increasing vaccination rates, encouraging people to kind of learn about the science. And then if there is distrust, kind of tackling the distrust first. Like, why are they distrustful? Like, is it the science? Is it against, do they believe in it being something that they're just forced to do? Like, are they against being mandated to do something? So when it's an issue of like freedoms at that point, not really science, or is it just like they don't really trust healthcare professionals because they're a minority group and they don't really, well, this is something my colleague said, like see their own people there, right? So there's a lot of nuance to it, and what we've just suggested is keep the vaccination rates going, open up Canada summer jobs so that youth who've had to miss work due to the pandemic can have a lot more employment to come. So that's why Canada Summer Jobs is around 450,000 positions now. Canada Service Grants, if you apply for a community project, they'll give you 1,500 in funding. So that's what we've really pushed for, kind of being able to give youth the opportunity to build their skills and learn even more employable skills that they've missed out during the pandemic. So that's the most we've been able to do. I can't really say about vaccine mandates or mask mandates. That's really all up to the Prime Minister and Dr. Tam herself.
Oh yeah, that's good to hear that there are going on, especially opportunities like you have mentioned, like job opportunities and other opportunities that you guys have added. That's actually good to know because currently people I have known and myself, there are not as much opportunities before because of this pandemic. I guess no one knew, like, of course, no one knew how to handle this because this never happened. So that's good to hear there are more opportunities, and I hope people that watch this, that you guys can go check out the opportunities and, have a fresh mindset and continue on there. Connected to that, um, this is actually a side note from a viewer of ours, a loyal viewer. She doesn't want to be exposed here. She doesn't want her name and everything, but she wanted us this personally to ask you. This is a side note. It's not main of our conversation, but is there like a whole process to get into Prime Minister Youth Council? Because she's one of, she has like, experiences in leading and leadership qualities and all that. So her question was, what is the specific requirements to join the Prime Minister Youth Council? Like, if you can like tell us a little bit.
Requirements. Let's see. I don't really think there's any like requirements. There's no like really set criteria that you can really follow or like a golden pathway, they say. That's kind of getting into like probably anything that's competitive, to be honest. But I would say just be involved in your community. Like just go out there, be active, and see things firsthand. Because if you're involved in a lot of stuff, you're active in your community, you become aware of the issues that exist, right? You know exactly the work that needs to be done. You develop connections. You know the people to reach out to, and you kind of begin to shape your own like perspective. I think my whole perspective's just been shaped by like all these vast experiences I've had, and more so that are coming, just because being on the council itself, I've been exposed to so many diverse perspectives. So just get out there, put your name out there, and then I guess the application process itself took a year. I applied in August, in the summer of I think was it of summer of grade 12 actually. So I'm already in second year. So I applied in the summer of grade 12 in August. Didn't hear anything back for a few months. I think until like May, honestly, I didn't hear anything back, and at that point I thought like, oh, it's whatever, right?
Yeah.
It'd be a cool opportunity, but don't also just set your like eyes on just one thing, because even if you don't get into the youth council or whatever, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, right? Like if you're really ambitious, you're really motivated to do things, you can do them from anywhere. It doesn't matter if you get into the youth council, you get into the most competitive job or whatever, you can do anything if you really put your mind to it. So back to the point, sorry, I stray a lot from the main topic, but uh, back in May, I heard that I had been, I think, shortlisted, or before I was shortlisted, there was actually an interview process as well in October. So they pretty much take 300 applications, and that's Stats Canada. They do a lot of diversity statistics. So one person or two people from each province, because you want to have a lot of perspectives, and then also based on community engagement. So if you are engaging in your community a lot, you have a lot of community hours, that'd be very beneficial because they really look at the amount of hours you put in, and that's an exact criteria that they use in their algorithm for sorting candidates. So the first 300 candidates that are sorted are just based on the computer alone. There's no like person involved looking at your application. So that's really all about a numbers game. So make sure your community involvement is high. And then after that, it's an interview process where it's a recorded interview. So you're not really speaking to anyone. It's just artificial. But everything you say is being recorded. You have like around 2 attempts. And that's sent to the Minister of Youth, and which is also an honorable minister, like a member of cabinet. And that minister reviews all the interviews. So around 80 interviews get reviewed. And then that's sent to the prime minister as a shortlist. And the prime minister reads through your profile, reads through your interests, your hobbies, and then decides if he would like to go forward with you or he would like to change you. So at the end of the day, the prime minister really does appoint you, but it's a whole process that involves many government officials, and it takes around a year. And you have to be security vetted, because if you're meeting the prime minister, there's a lot of concern there as well with security.
Thank you for answering our question, and that is a really scary, long process in my point of view, meeting with people and doing that. But thank you for answering that question. That is really
Yeah,
cool,
no problem.
actually. And from 300 applicants to becoming one of the members, that's actually really cool and knowingly.
Yeah.
Coming back to our discussion, it's almost quite over. I'm really sorry. This might seem short, but we're on our point. We like to keep our discussions on point for the youths to know.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so coming to the next question. So as you have mentioned, staying engaged in your community, like you don't have to always, be in the national level. You can just engage in your community and make a difference. With the issues going on, like currently for everyone, even youths, adults, do you think these movements, protests, like couple months back, or I would say couple years, not years, like last year, I guess, there was this movement, Black Lives Matter movement in downtown Toronto, where this whole thing came up. Do you think that is getting a youth council's point of view? Do you think that is useful? Do you think that makes a difference for us?
I mean, well, that's a little tough because once again, as I said, there's a lot of nuance and everything, right? So of course, yes. If it's an issue that's of importance to you, like raising awareness about it, being fully active about it, raising your voice, that's always important, right? So whether that be Black Lives Matter or protesting against, even this is a controversial opinion, but even protesting against like COVID vaccines, let's say, if
Mm-hmm.
that's something that's of importance to you, I know like a lot of people believe it's anti-science or conspiracy theories, but at the end of the day, like you have to really kind of understand why those people are protesting against it, and then we can't really like label people as black and white, right? So if it's something that's important of you, I think protesting will always be productive. I don't really think necessarily there's any harm coming out of it because other people become aware that this is an issue as well. So even if your protest itself, let's say, doesn't really achieve change, it does make people aware that there's a lot of resentment or that there's a lot of this is an issue that needs critical addressment, like addressing, right? So like the COVID vaccines, the government has realized that maybe they need to do more in terms of establishing trust with individuals rather than just trying to convince people of the science behind it. Because people that do trust the science aren't really protesting against it. So you have to really, it's not really about like science communication at this point. It's really about establishing trust with individuals. So whatever it may be, I think it always highlights an important issue, and then other avenues of work might be done to really achieve the solution we want. So protesting is a good way of getting that done.
Yeah, I agree as well, because with our youth, we get that question because sometimes people do protest, but they don't see a result. So that's why we get this question mainly asked, that whenever we talk with a government member or a council member to ask this. So thank you for answering that. And I hope our viewers that watch this answers it. So coming to the end, is there any last messages you want to tell youths of today?
I guess the last message would be just having fun, because like all of this, to be honest, like community engagement, advocacy should all be like an escape from the stressors in your life, like whether that be school, family, or a whole host of other things. Like being active in your community and all that sort of stuff is really cool, something that we should be doing. But if it's really taking energy away from you or taking time away from the other priorities in your life, I think it's important to kind of take a step back and kind of really see where you're spending all your time and effort, because we have such a limited amount, right? We want to be spending in the right areas. So I think it's easy to kind of become hyper involved too, like, oh, you want to take on everything, take on every opportunity. But that's just a recipe for burnout. Like speaking from personal experience, I know in grade 11, I tried to manage like full IB along with a whole host of other extras. And I was kind of getting to the point where I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing. It was more so kind of like a laundry list of just activities. And when it gets to that, your work kind of like the amount of passion you put in shows in the work itself. So if it's something that you're really passionate about, it'll show. Like you'll always go the extra mile. And if it's something that's you're just doing for the sake of doing it, there's going to be a lot of resentment. You're not going to get any joy out of it, and it's just like bad for your mental health overall. So I think it's really important to kind of take a step back, really evaluate the opportunities that come your way, and evaluate like what you really want to get involved in, and make a criteria for what's worth your time and what's a priority to you. And if you do that, you'll be able to have your involvement, have really stable mental health, and then also avoid burnout, which is crucial, and especially in today's society.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really quite powerful saying you said there. So thank you so much and for your last message. And thank you genuinely for coming out here. This may seem short, but I genuinely learned a lot what the Prime Minister Youth Council is and what genuinely the government is planning to do. So thank you so much for coming out and giving us your time.
Of course, no worries. It was a really fun experience, and thanks for having me.
No problem. And thank you for everyone who joined us on our live. And I hope you guys continue to making a change. And thank you for everyone
All
joining.
right, thanks again.
No
All right,
problem. Have a great day.
yeah,
Bye.
yeah, you too. Thanks, everyone.
No problem. And thank you guys for joining us. And if you haven't, please go like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channels. That will be really much appreciated. And I hope you guys learned a lot from this live and our previous lives. And we will be having a upcoming talk show, but later on the week in February. So don't worry. We had our back-to-back talk shows this week. So I guess we will save that for next week. And thank you for everyone who has stayed with us till the end. Thank you so much.